A 10-year-old girl in the hospital with a baby shocks doctors with a surprising revelation about the father. Have you ever heard a story that left you speechless? This is one of those. A young girl walks into a hospital with a newborn, and what she reveals about the father leaves everyone in the room stunned. Keep watching to find out the incredible twist that even the doctors couldn't believe. And hey, before we dive into this unbelievable story, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping tales like this one. In the quaint town of Millbrook, 12-year-old Lily Chen stumbles upon an overgrown hidden garden while exploring the grounds of her grandmother's Victorian house. The garden, once vibrant and full of life, now lies forgotten behind rusted gates and tangled vines. As Lily pushes through the undergrowth, she finds weathered stone statues, dried-up fountains, and the remnants of what must have been a spectacular rose garden. In the center stands an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching out like protective arms over the neglected space. Intrigued by her discovery, Lily races back to tell her grandmother, Elena, about the secret garden. Elena's eyes light up with recognition, but a shadow of sadness quickly crosses her face. She begins to tell Lily a story that spans generations, of love, loss, and the power of nature to heal. Elena reveals that the garden was created by Lily's great-great-grandmother, Amelia, a passionate botanist who traveled the world collecting rare plants. Amelia poured her heart and soul into the garden, making it a haven for both plants and people. However, during World War II, the family fell on hard times. Amelia's son, William, was drafted, and the garden fell into disrepair. When William returned from the war, he was a changed man, unable to find joy in the things he once loved, including the garden. Over time, the garden was forgotten, its beauty hidden behind walls of ivy and neglect. Elena admits that she always meant to restore it, but never found the strength or time to face the memories it held. Chapter 3. A New Beginning. Inspired by the garden's history and her grandmother's stories, Lily decides to take on the challenge of restoring the forgotten paradise. She enlists the help of her best friend, Max, and begins researching gardening techniques and the plants that once thrived there. As word spreads about Lily's project, the community starts to take notice. Old-timers who remember the garden in its heyday share stories and offer advice. The local garden club, excited by the prospect of reviving a piece of the town's history, volunteers to help. Chapter 4. Obstacles and Growth. Lily and her growing team of volunteers face numerous challenges as they work to bring the garden back to life. They battle stubborn weeds, discover broken irrigation systems, and struggle to identify long-dormant plants. Lily's parents, initially skeptical of her ambitious project, begin to see the positive change it's bringing not just to the garden, but to Lily herself. She's learning about responsibility, leadership, and the satisfaction of hard work. As the garden slowly begins to show signs of life, so too does Elena. She starts spending more time outdoors, sharing stories of the garden's glory days, and offering guidance based on Amelia's old journals, which she unearths from the attic. Chapter 5. Unexpected Treasures. While clearing out a particularly overgrown section of the garden, Lily and Max uncover a small, weather-beaten box buried beneath the roots of an old rosebush. Inside, they find a collection of letters exchanged between William and his wife during the war. The letters reveal a side of William that Elena never knew: his longing for home, his dreams for the future, and his desire to see the garden in bloom again. This discovery helps Elena understand her father better and begins to heal old wounds. Chapter 6. The Butterfly Effect. As spring turns to summer, the garden begins to flourish. Butterflies and bees return, attracted by the newly blooming flowers. The transformation of the space starts to have a ripple effect on the community. Neighbors who had never spoken before find themselves chatting over the garden fence. The local school organizes field trips to learn about ecology and history. Even the town's annual festival decides to incorporate a garden tour into its events. Lily, once a shy and reserved child, blossoms along with her project. She gives tours, explains the garden's history, and shares her newfound knowledge of plants with anyone who will listen. Chapter 7. Preserving the Past, Nurturing the Future. As the garden nears completion, Lily and Elena work together to create a small museum in the old gardener's shed, displaying Amelia's journals, William's letters, and other artifacts from the garden's history. The project attracts the attention of a botanical society, which offers to partner with Lily and the town to ensure the garden's long-term preservation. They also establish a scholarship in Amelia's name for students interested in botany and environmental science. Chapter 8. Full Bloom. The story culminates with the grand reopening of the garden. The once forgotten space is now a riot of color and life, buzzing with activity. As Lily cuts the ribbon, she sees tears of joy in Elena's eyes. The garden becomes a living testament to the power of community, the importance of preserving history, and the ability of nature to bring healing and connection. Lily realizes that in bringing the garden back to life, she's helped rejuvenate her family and her town. As the sun sets on the celebration, Lily sits beneath the old oak tree, now strung with twinkling lights. She reflects on the journey that began with a simple discovery and grew into something that touched so many lives. She knows that, like the garden, her adventure is just beginning, with new growth and possibilities waiting to unfold. The soft glow of the lights illuminates the faces of her friends and family scattered throughout the garden. Lily watches as her grandmother Elena, looking years younger, laughs with a group of garden club members near the newly restored fountain. The sound of water trickling over stone mingles with the chirping of evening birds, creating a soothing melody. Max plops down beside her, his clothes still bearing smudges of dirt from the day's final preparations. "Can you believe we actually did it?" he asks, his voice filled with wonder. Lily shakes her head, a smile playing on her lips. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," she admits. "But then I look around and see how much has changed. Not just the garden, but everything." As if on cue, they spot Mr. Granger, the once grumpy neighbor who had initially complained about the noise and activity, now enthusiastically explaining the history of a rare plant to a group of wide-eyed children. His transformation from skeptic to supporter had been one of the project's most surprising outcomes. "You know," Max says thoughtfully, "my dad says the garden's not the only thing that's grown. He says you have too." Lily feels a warmth spread through her chest at the words. She thinks about how she'd stood up at the town council meeting to argue for the garden's preservation, surprising even herself with her passion and articulation. She remembers the pride she felt when showing the Botanical Society representatives around, confidently answering their questions about soil composition and plant varieties. "I guess we all have," she replies, gesturing to the diverse group of people mingling in the garden, young and old, longtime residents and newcomers, all brought together by this shared project. As the evening progresses, Lily finds herself drawn to the small museum they've created in the old gardener's shed. She slips inside, away from the chatter of the party, and stands before the display of Amelia's journals and William's letters. Their words, written so long ago, seem to come alive in the soft light. Lily's fingers trace the glass covering a photograph of Amelia standing proudly in the garden at its prime. She sees echoes of her own determination in her great-great-grandmother's eyes. "We did it," she whispers to the image. "We brought it back, just like you would have wanted." A gentle hand on her shoulder makes her turn. Elena stands there, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Thank you," she says simply, pulling Lily into a tight embrace. As they walk back out into the garden, arm in arm, Lily's mind races with ideas for the future. She envisions workshops teaching children about ecology, community events celebrating the changing seasons, and quiet moments of reflection for those seeking peace among the blooms. The garden, once forgotten, has become a living, growing testament to the power of curiosity, perseverance, and community spirit. And Lily, standing at the threshold of adolescence, realizes that she too has bloomed, nurtured by the very project she brought to life. As the party winds down and the last of the visitors depart, Lily takes a final walk through the moonlit paths. The silver light casts an ethereal glow over the flowers and statues, and for a moment, she can almost see the ghosts of the past. Amelia planting her prized roses, William dreaming of home, Elena as a young girl playing among the bushes. Lily makes a silent promise to these echoes of the past and to herself. She will be the garden's keeper, ensuring that it never again falls into neglect and forgetfulness. But more than that, she'll nurture the seeds of community and growth that have been planted alongside the flowers. With a contented sigh, Lily turns towards home, knowing that tomorrow brings a new day of tending, both to the garden and to the connections it has forged. The adventure, she realizes, is far from over. It's only just begun. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Lily stirred from her sleep. The events of the previous night, the grand reopening of the once-forgotten garden, still felt like a dream. But as she pushed open her bedroom window, the sweet scent of blooming flowers wafted in on the morning breeze, a tangible reminder of all that had been accomplished. Lily dressed quickly, eager to return to the garden. As she made her way downstairs, she found her grandmother Elena already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a steaming mug of tea and a weathered journal open before her. "Good morning, my little gardener," Elena greeted her with a warm smile. "I couldn't sleep, so I've been reading through some of Amelia's old entries. Would you like to hear one?" Nodding eagerly, Lily poured herself a glass of orange juice and settled into the chair beside her grandmother. Elena's voice, soft and melodious, filled the kitchen as she read, May 15th, 1920. Today I planted the oak sapling William brought back from his travels. It's small now, barely reaching my knee, but I dream of the day it will stand tall and strong, watching over our garden. In its shade, I imagine future generations will find solace and inspiration. A tree is a promise to the future, a belief that life will continue to grow and flourish long after we're gone. Lily's eyes widened. "That's the big oak tree in the center of the garden now, isn't it?" Elena nodded, her eyes twinkling. "The very same. And look how right Amelia was. Here we are, a century later, finding inspiration under its branches." As they finished their breakfast, Lily's parents joined them, and soon the conversation turned to the future of the garden. Lily listened intently as the adults discussed the logistics of maintaining the space and organizing future events. "Lily," her father said, turning to her with a serious expression, "you've shown incredible leadership throughout this project. We think you should continue to play a central role in the garden's future. What do you think about forming a youth committee to help with ongoing maintenance and to plan educational programs?" A mixture of excitement and nervousness bubbled up inside Lily. The idea of taking on such a responsibility was daunting, but she couldn't deny the thrill it gave her. I'd love to," she replied, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. "I already have some ideas for workshops we could run for kids from the elementary school." Her mother beamed with pride. "That's wonderful, honey. Why don't you jot down your ideas and we can discuss them with the town council next week?" As the family continued to chat, Lily's mind raced with possibilities. She imagined children learning about pollination by observing bees in the garden, storytelling sessions beneath the old oak tree, and art classes inspired by the vibrant flowers and tranquil ponds. After breakfast, Lily hurried to the garden, notepad in hand. As she pushed open the wrought iron gates, she was struck anew by the transformation. Where tangled weeds and debris had once reigned, neatly mulched paths now wound between beds bursting with colorful blooms. The restored fountain bubbled merrily, attracting a pair of robins that splashed playfully in the cool water. Lily made her way to the old oak tree, settling into the nook formed by its gnarled roots. She began to sketch out her ideas, the scratch of pencil on paper accompanied by the gentle rustle of leaves overhead and the distant hum of bees. So engrossed was she in her planning that she didn't notice Max's approach until he flopped down beside her, peering curiously at her notes. "What you working on?" he asked, reaching out to tilt the notepad for a better view. Lily excitedly explained her ideas for the youth committee and the various programs they could organize. Max listened attentively, his eyes growing wider with each suggestion. "That's amazing, Lily," he exclaimed when she finished. "Count me in for the committee. Oh, and you know what would be cool? We could start a blog or a social media account for the garden, share updates, gardening tips, and maybe even do live streams of events." Lily's face lit up at the suggestion. "Max, that's brilliant. We could reach so many more people that way, maybe even inspire other communities to start similar projects." As they continued to brainstorm, more of their friends began to arrive, drawn by the beauty of the morning and the excitement of the previous night's event. Soon a small group had gathered under the oak tree, all eager to contribute ideas and volunteer their time. Lily looked around at her friends, a warm feeling of community and purpose washing over her. This, she realized, was the true magic of the garden, its ability to bring people together, to inspire and nurture not just plants, but relationships and dreams. As the morning wore on, Lily and her friends decided to take a break from planning and explore the garden. They wandered along the winding paths, marveling at the variety of plants and the hidden nooks and crannies they discovered. In one secluded corner, partially hidden by a weeping willow, they found a small, weathered bench. Carved into its back was a heart containing the initials W+R. "I wonder who W and R were," mused Sarah, running her fingers over the faded carving. "Maybe it was William. You know, Lily's great-grandfather," Max suggested. "But who's R?" Lily made a mental note to ask her grandmother about it later. The garden, it seemed, still held many secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they continued their exploration, Lily's mind drifted to the future. She imagined the garden changing with the seasons, the riot of spring blossoms giving way to the lush greens of summer, then the warm hues of autumn, and finally the stark beauty of winter. Each season would bring its own challenges and rewards, much like life itself. The sound of voices drew the group back to the main path, where they found Mr. Granger leading a small tour of visitors who had read about the garden's restoration in the local newspaper. "And here," Mr. Granger was saying, gesturing to a bed of vibrant purple flowers, "we have a variety of iris that young Lily here propagated from a single plant found buried beneath years of overgrowth. It's a testament to the resilience of nature and the dedication of our young gardeners." Lily blushed at the praise, but felt a surge of pride as the visitors murmured appreciatively and began snapping photos of the irises. As the day progressed, more visitors trickled in, each drawn by curiosity and the promise of beauty. Lily and her friends found themselves acting as impromptu guides, sharing the garden's history and pointing out notable features. By late afternoon, Lily was tired but exhilarated. She made her way back to the old gardener's shed, now transformed into the small museum housing Amelia's journals and other artifacts. As she entered the cool, dim interior, she found her grandmother already there, carefully arranging a new display. "Perfect timing," Elena said, beckoning Lily over. "I wanted to show you something." From a carefully padded box, Elena withdrew a delicate, age-yellowed piece of paper. Lily leaned in close to examine it and gasped in recognition. It was a map of the garden, meticulously drawn and labeled in Amelia's flowing script. "I found this tucked into one of the journals," Elena explained. "I thought we could frame it and add it to the display. But first, I wanted you to have a good look at it. Notice anything interesting?" Lily studied the map carefully. Most of it aligned with the garden as they had restored it. But there, in one corner, "Oh, there's a section we haven't uncovered yet," Lily exclaimed, pointing to an area labeled Moonlight Grove. Elena nodded, a twinkle in her eye. "It seems the garden still has secrets to share. What do you say we organize an excavation? It could be an excellent project for your youth committee." Lily's mind raced with the possibilities. What might they find in the Moonlight Grove? Rare plants? Another hidden statue? Or perhaps something even more extraordinary? As they left the shed, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the garden, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. The garden's restoration wasn't an end, but a beginning. A starting point for new discoveries, new growth, and new connections. That evening, as Lily prepared for bed, she paused at her window, looking out over the moonlit garden. The silver light transformed the familiar landscape, casting an air of mystery and possibility over every flower and leaf. In that moment, Lily understood what Amelia had meant in her journal entry about the oak tree. The garden was more than just a collection of plants. It was a living legacy, a bridge between past and future. And now, Lily was part of that legacy, a keeper of the garden's secrets and a cultivator of its future. As she drifted off to sleep, Lily's dreams were filled with images of hidden groves and undiscovered wonders, of friendships forged amidst blooming flowers, and of a community united by a shared love of nature and history. In the garden below, under the watchful gaze of the old oak tree, new seeds were taking root, seeds of curiosity, of passion, and of hope. And like the garden itself, these seeds held the promise of something beautiful, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. The warm light of dawn had barely begun to paint the sky when Lily's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the gentle chorus of birdsong filtering through her open window. The sweet scent of morning dew mingled with the fragrant blooms of the garden, creating an intoxicating perfume that filled her room. As sleep fell away, excitement surged through her veins. Today was the day they would begin exploring the Moonlight Grove. Lily dressed quickly, her fingers fumbling with buttons in her haste. She paused only briefly to scribble a note in the journal her grandmother had given her, a habit she'd picked up since discovering Amelia's old diaries. "June 15th, she wrote, her pencil flying across the page. "Today we start our expedition into the Moonlight Grove. I can hardly sleep for wondering what we might find. Will there be new flowers? Old statues? Or something we can't even imagine? Whatever it is, I know it will be magical." Downstairs, she found her parents and grandmother already gathered around the kitchen table, poring over Amelia's map of the garden. Mugs of steaming coffee and half-eaten toast lay forgotten as they debated the best approach to uncovering the hidden section. "Good morning, explorer," Elena greeted her with a warm smile. "Are you ready for your big adventure?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, reaching for an apple from the fruit bowl. "I can't wait. Do you think we'll find anything exciting?" Her father chuckled, ruffling her hair affectionately. "With you leading the charge, I'm sure it'll be nothing short of spectacular." As they finished breakfast, a knock at the door announced the arrival of Max and the other members of the newly formed youth committee. The group gathered in the kitchen, their eyes shining with anticipation as they examined the map. "Okay, team," Lily said, her voice filled with a confidence that surprised even her. Here's the plan. We'll start by clearing away the overgrowth at the entrance to the grove. Sarah and Jake, you're in charge of documenting everything we find. Take lots of pictures and notes. Max and I will lead the way, and the rest of you follow behind, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. With murmurs of agreement, the group headed out into the misty morning. As they approached the area where the Moonlight Grove was supposed to be, Lily felt a shiver of excitement run down her spine. The map showed the grove's entrance hidden behind a large rhododendron bush, which had grown wild and unruly over the years. Armed with pruning shears and determination, Lily and Max began to carefully cut away the tangled branches. As they worked, Lily's mind wandered, imagining what Amelia might have felt when she first created this secret space. Was it meant to be a quiet retreat? A place for rare night-blooming flowers? Or something else entirely? Suddenly, Max's excited shout broke through her reverie. "Lily, look! I think I see something." Peering through the gap they'd created, Lily gasped. There, partially obscured by years of leafy overgrowth, stood an ornate wrought-iron archway. Delicate vines of metal twisted and curled to form the shape of crescent moons and stars. "It's beautiful," Sarah breathed, snapping picture after picture. With renewed energy, the team worked to clear away the remaining foliage. As the archway was fully revealed, they discovered an inscription worked into the metalwork. "To walk in moonlight is to live 100 lives in one night." That's from a poem by an author named Sanober Khan, Elena said softly, having joined the group without their noticing. Amelia must have loved it. Carefully, reverently, Lily stepped through the archway. The others followed close behind, their excited whispers falling away as they took in the scene before them. The Moonlight Grove was a hidden wonder. A circular clearing, not much larger than Lily's bedroom, was surrounded by trees whose branches intertwined overhead, creating a natural dome. The ground was carpeted with soft, silvery green moss, punctuated here and there by clusters of pure white flowers that seemed to glow in the dappled sunlight. In the center of the clearing stood a small, weathered stone fountain. Its basin was dry, leaves gathered in its bottom, but Lily could easily imagine how it must have looked in its prime, water sparkling in the moonlight. "This is amazing," Max whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's like stepping into another world." As the team spread out to explore, each discovery brought new excitement. Jake found a collection of unusual shells arranged in a spiral pattern near the base of one tree. Sarah uncovered a small, tarnished sundial half buried in the moss. And in a hollow at the base of the largest tree, Max discovered a metal box, its surface etched with the same moon and star motifs as the archway. With trembling hands, Lily carefully opened the box. Inside, they found a collection of letters, a small leather-bound book, and a delicate silver locket. "We should take these back to the house," Elena suggested gently. "We can examine them more closely there, without risking any damage." As they made their way back, Lily's mind was awhirl with questions. Who were the letters from? What secrets did the book hold? And whose picture would they find inside the locket? Back at the house, they gathered around the kitchen table once more. Elena carefully laid out the contents of the box, handling each item with the utmost care. "The book appears to be a personal journal," she said, gently opening its cover. "And it's not Amelia's handwriting." Leaning in close, Lily read the inscription on the first page. "Property of Rose Thorne, 1918. "Rose Thorne," Max echoed. "Do you think that's the R from the carved initials we found on that old bench?" Elena nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. "I believe it might be. And if W stood for William, as you guessed, well, I think we might have just stumbled upon a love story." Over the next few hours, they carefully went through the contents of the box. The letters were a correspondence between William and Rose, spanning several years. They told a tale of young love, of William's travels abroad, and of Rose's work as a botanist. "Listen to this," Lily said excitedly, reading from one of Rose's letters. "My dearest William, I've created a special place in the garden, a secret grove where the flowers bloom by moonlight. When you return, we'll sit there together, counting stars and dreaming of our future." As the day wore on, a picture began to emerge. Rose had been Amelia's apprentice and friend, working alongside her in the garden. She and William had fallen in love, but William's family disapproved of the match, considering Rose beneath their social status. "The last letter is from William," Elena said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "It's dated 1920, just before he left for the war. He writes, 'My darling Rose, I go to war with a heavy heart, for I leave behind not one, but two great loves, you and our garden. Keep our moonlight grove blooming, and know that with every flower that opens under the stars, my love for you grows stronger. I will return, and when I do, nothing will keep us apart.'" A hushed silence fell over the group as the weight of the story settled upon them. Lily felt a lump forming in her throat as she thought of William, heading off to war, leaving behind the woman he loved and the garden they had tended together. "But William did come back, didn't he?" Max asked hesitantly. "I mean, he was Lily's great-grandfather." Elena nodded slowly. "He did return, yes, but people change, and war changes them most of all." She paused, her eyes distant with memory. "My father, William, he was a quiet man, kind, but there was always a sadness about him. Now I think I understand why." Lily's mind was reeling. The garden, which had already meant so much to her, now held an even deeper significance. It wasn't just a place of beauty and history. It was a testament to love, to dreams both realized and lost. "What happened to Rose?" Sarah asked softly. Elena shook her head. "I don't know. These letters stop before William's return. Perhaps there are more answers hidden in the garden. Or perhaps some stories are destined to remain mysteries." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the kitchen, Lily found herself drawn back to the moonlight grove. She stood beneath the archway, watching as the fading light played across the silvery moss and white flowers. In the quiet of the evening, she could almost imagine she heard whispers on the breeze, the echoes of William and Rose's love, of Amelia's dedication, of all the lives that had been touched by this remarkable place. Lily's hand closed around the silver locket she wore around her neck. Elena had suggested she keep it safe. Inside was a faded photograph of a young couple, their faces alight with joy as they stood together in a garden bursting with life. As the first stars began to twinkle overhead, Lily made a silent promise. She would continue to uncover the garden's secrets, to honor the loves and lives that had shaped it. And perhaps, in doing so, she would write her own chapter in its ongoing story. With a deep breath, she turned back toward the house, where she could see the warm glow of lights and hear the faint sound of laughter. The day's discoveries had brought them all closer, binding them together in a shared adventure. As she walked back, Lily's mind was already racing with plans. There would be research to do, more areas of the garden to explore. Perhaps they could organize a moonlight garden party, bringing the moonlight grove back to its former glory. And the story of William and Rose, surely that deserved to be shared, a testament to the enduring power of love and nature. The garden, Lily realized, was more than just a collection of plants and paths. It was a living, growing entity, one that continued to evolve and reveal new facets of itself. And she, along with her friends and family, were now part of its rich tapestry. As she reached the back porch, Lily paused for a moment, looking back at the garden sprawling in the twilight. The moonlight grove was hidden from view, but she could feel its presence, a secret heart beating in time with her own. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new discoveries. But for now, Lily was content to bask in the warm glow of family, friendship, and the knowledge that sometimes the greatest treasures are those that have been waiting patiently to be found. With a smile, she turned and went inside, ready to share her thoughts and plans with the others. The story of the forgotten garden was far from over. In fact, Lily suspected it was only just beginning. The following morning dawned bright and clear, the air filled with a sense of possibility that seemed to hum through the garden. Lily woke early, her mind still buzzing with the discoveries of the previous day. As she got dressed, her fingers absently traced the outline of the silver locket that now hung around her neck, a tangible link to the past, and a reminder of the mysteries still waiting to be unraveled. Downstairs, she found the kitchen already a hive of activity. Her parents were deep in conversation with Elena, while Max and Sarah pored over the letters and journal they'd discovered in the moonlight grove. The air was thick with the aroma of coffee and the excitement of shared purpose. "Good morning, sleepyhead," her father greeted her with a warm smile. "We've been brainstorming ideas for what to do next. Want to hear what we've come up with?" Lily nodded eagerly, sliding into a seat at the table and reaching for a piece of toast. As she listened, her excitement grew. They had plans to reach out to local historians, to dig deeper into the town's archives, and to organize a community event to share their discoveries. And, Elena added, her eyes twinkling, we thought it might be nice to host a moonlight garden party, to bring the moonlight grove back to life, so to speak. The idea sent a thrill through Lily. She could already imagine it. Soft lights twinkling in the trees, music drifting on the night air, people dancing and laughing beneath the stars. It would be magical. As the day progressed, word of their discoveries spread through the town like wildfire. Neighbors dropped by, curious to hear more about the hidden grove and the love story of William and Rose. Each visitor brought with them a piece of the puzzle, old stories passed down through generations, faded photographs, snippets of half-remembered tales. Mrs. Abernathy, the town's oldest resident, arrived mid-afternoon, leaning heavily on her cane but with eyes bright with interest. "I remember my grandmother telling stories about a young woman who used to work in this garden," she said, her voice quavering with age but filled with excitement. "Said she had a way with plants like no one else. Could make flowers bloom in the darkest night, she could." This revelation sent Lily and her friends scurrying back to Rose's journal, searching for any mention of night-blooming plants. Sure enough, tucked between pages of pressed flowers and detailed sketches, they found notes on rare nocturnal species and experimental crossbreeds. "Look at this," Max exclaimed, pointing to a particularly detailed entry. She was working on developing a new variety of evening primrose that would glow in the dark. Can you imagine? The discovery sparked a new idea in Lily's mind. "What if," she said slowly, her excitement building, "what if we tried to recreate some of Rose's experiments? We could make the Moonlight Grove truly magical again." The suggestion was met with enthusiastic agreement, and soon plans were being made to source seeds and cuttings of night-blooming plants. Lily found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity, coordinating research efforts, organizing volunteer groups, and fielding questions from curious community members. As the days passed, the garden became a hub of constant activity. Historians pored over old documents, botanists examined the plants in the Moonlight Grove, and local artists began sketching designs for informational placards and a new brochure about the garden's history. Lily threw herself into every aspect of the project with boundless enthusiasm. She spent hours in the local library, digging through old newspapers and town records, searching for any mention of Rose Thorne or her work in the garden. She helped organize a team of volunteer gardeners to carefully tend to the delicate plants in the Moonlight Grove, ensuring they were nurtured back to health after years of neglect. One particularly exciting afternoon, a package arrived from a botanical garden in England. Inside were seeds and cuttings of several rare night-blooming plants, along with a letter expressing great interest in their project. The sender, it turned out, was a botanist who had been researching the work of early 20th century female horticulturists and had come across mentions of Rose Thorne's innovative experiments. This international connection opened up new avenues of research and collaboration. Soon, Lily found herself coordinating video calls with experts from around the world, all eager to learn more about Rose's work and the unique ecosystem of the Moonlight Grove. As the weeks passed, the garden continued to reveal its secrets. A team of local archaeology students, excited by the project, volunteered to do a careful excavation of the area around the fountain in the Moonlight Grove. Their efforts uncovered a small, waterproof box buried beneath the fountain's base. Inside the box, they found a collection of seed packets, each carefully labeled in Rose's neat handwriting, along with a letter addressed to future gardeners of the Moonlight Grove. The letter, dated just days before William's return from the war, was filled with hope and excitement for the future. Rose wrote of her plans for the grove, of the new varieties of plants she hoped to develop, and of her dreams of creating a space where beauty could flourish even in darkness. The final paragraph of the letter brought tears to Lily's eyes. To whoever finds this, I hope you understand the magic of this place. The Moonlight Grove is more than just a garden. It's a testament to the power of love, hope, and the unyielding strength of nature. No matter how dark the night, there will always be flowers reaching for the stars. Nurture them, cherish them, and let them remind you that even in the darkest times, beauty and love can bloom. The discovery of Rose's letter and seeds created a renewed sense of purpose. Lily and her team carefully cataloged each seed packet, consulting with botanists to determine the best way to attempt germination after so many years. As they worked, Lily couldn't help but feel a deep connection to Rose. She found herself wondering what had become of the young botanist after William's return. Had they reunited? Had the war changed things between them? The mystery gnawed at her, driving her to dig deeper into the town's history. Her persistence paid off when, after weeks of searching, she uncovered a series of letters in the town archives. The letters, exchanged between Amelia and a botanist in New York, mentioned Rose's departure from the town shortly after William's return from the war. According to the letters, Rose had been offered a position at the New York Botanical Garden, where she continued her groundbreaking work on night-blooming plants. Amelia's letters spoke of Rose with great affection and pride, but there was an undercurrent of sadness, too, hinting at a painful separation between Rose and William. This discovery led to a flurry of new research. Lily reached out to the New York Botanical Garden, hoping to find more information about Rose's later life and work. To her delight, they not only had records of Rose's employment, but also a small collection of her papers and botanical illustrations. As Lily delved deeper into Rose's story, she found herself increasingly drawn to the idea of botanical research and conservation. The hours she spent poring over Rose's notes and experiments awakened a passion she hadn't known she possessed. She began to see the garden not just as a beautiful space or a historical curiosity, but as a living laboratory, a place where the past and future of botanical science intersected. This new perspective influenced the plans for the upcoming Moonlight Garden Party. What had started as a simple community celebration was evolving into something much more significant. Lily and her team decided to use the event as a platform to launch a new initiative, the Rosethorn Botanical Research and Conservation Program. The program would focus on continuing Rose's work, particularly her research into night-blooming plants and their potential applications in medicine and environmental science. They planned to partner with local schools and universities, offering internships and research opportunities for budding botanists and environmental scientists. As the date of the garden party approached, excitement in the town reached a fever pitch. The story of the forgotten garden, with its tales of secret groves and long-lost love, had captured the imagination of the entire community. Local businesses donated supplies and services, artists created beautiful posters and invitations, and volunteers worked tirelessly to ensure every detail was perfect. The night of the party dawned clear and warm, with a full moon hanging low in the sky like a giant silver lantern. As twilight fell, the garden came alive with twinkling lights and the soft strains of music. Guests arrived in a steady stream, their faces alight with wonder as they entered the transformed space. The Moonlight Grove, once hidden and forgotten, now stood as the centerpiece of the celebration. Carefully restored pathways led visitors through beds of night-blooming flowers, their delicate petals unfurling in the moonlight. The old fountain burbled merrily, its basin filled with floating candles that cast dancing reflections on the water's surface. Lily, dressed in a flowing gown that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, found herself at the center of attention. She moved from group to group, sharing the garden's story and her own journey of discovery. As she spoke, she could see the spark of inspiration in people's eyes, the awakening of a shared love for this magical place. Near midnight, Lily stood beneath the old oak tree, surveying the scene before her. The garden was filled with laughter and music, with people of all ages coming together to celebrate nature, history, and community. In that moment, she felt a profound sense of connection to the land, to the past, and to all the people who had come before her. As she watched, a cool breeze rustled through the leaves overhead, carrying with it the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine. For just a moment, Lily could have sworn she saw two figures walking arm in arm through the moonlight grove, a young man in a soldier's uniform and a woman with flowers in her hair. They turned, smiling, and then faded away like mist in the moonlight. Lily blinked, wondering if she had imagined it. But whether the figures were real or just a product of her imagination, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. Wherever their paths had led them, she knew that William and Rose's love lived on in the garden they had helped create. As the party continued around her, Lily's mind turned to the future. The garden had already changed her life in ways she never could have imagined, opening up new paths and possibilities. She thought of the research program they were launching, of the seeds from Rose's time they would soon attempt to germinate, of all the discoveries yet to be made. The forgotten garden was forgotten no longer. Instead, it had become a place of new beginnings, of dreams taking root and flourishing. And Lily knew, with a certainty that ran bone deep, that her own story, like the garden's, was really only just beginning. As the first light of dawn began to paint the eastern sky, Lily made her way to the center of the Moonlight Grove. Guests gathered around, their faces glowing with happiness and a touch of magic that seemed to linger in the air. Lily cleared her throat, suddenly nervous as all eyes turned to her. But as she looked out at the crowd, at her family, her friends, and the community that had come together to bring this garden back to life, she felt a surge of confidence. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice clear and strong. "A few months ago, this garden was a forgotten place, its secrets hidden beneath years of neglect. But look at it now. Look at us now." She gestured around at the blooming flowers, the twinkling lights, the smiling faces. This garden has taught me so much, about history, about nature, about the power of community. But most of all, it's taught me that with love, care, and dedication, forgotten things can bloom again. As the crowd applauded, Lily felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This was more than just a garden. It was a legacy, a living monument to love, science, and the enduring power of nature. And now, it was her turn to be its caretaker, to nurture it and help it grow. The sun peeked over the horizon, bathing the garden in golden light. As night gave way to day, Lily knew that this was not an ending, but a new beginning. The forgotten garden had been reborn, and with it, a world of possibilities had blossomed. With a smile, Lily turned to face the rising sun, ready to embrace whatever adventures the new day might bring. As the years passed, the forgotten garden, now known simply as the Moonlight Garden, became a beacon of hope and inspiration, not just for the town, but for people around the world. Lily, once a curious young girl stumbling upon a hidden grove, had blossomed into a respected botanist and conservationist, her life's work intimately entwined with the garden that had captured her heart so many years ago. On a warm summer evening, 10 years after the fateful discovery of the Moonlight Grove, Lily stood at the entrance of the garden, marveling at how much had changed, and how much remained the same. The old oak tree still stood sentinel at the heart of the garden, its branches now adorned with delicate lanterns that cast a soft, ethereal glow over the paths below. Lily's hand absently reached for the silver locket that still hung around her neck, a constant reminder of William and Rose's love story that had started it all. She smiled, thinking of how that small piece of jewelry had become a symbol of the garden's enduring legacy. As she walked the familiar paths, now bustling with visitors and researchers alike, Lily's mind wandered back over the years, recalling the milestones and discoveries that had shaped her life and the garden's future. 5 years earlier, their efforts to germinate Rose's century-old seeds had finally paid off. After countless failed attempts and moments of near despair, a single delicate sprout had pushed its way through the soil. The entire team had gathered around the small pot, holding their breath as the tiny plant unfurled its first leaves. That sprout had grown into a beautiful, luminescent flower unlike anything they had ever seen before. Its petals seemed to glow from within, emitting a soft, blue-white light that intensified under the light of the full moon. They had named it Rosa Stellaris, the star rose, in honor of Rose Thorne's groundbreaking work. The discovery of the star rose had catapulted the Moonlight Garden into the international spotlight. Botanists and geneticists from around the world flocked to study this miraculous plant, marveling at its unique properties. Lily found herself at the center of a scientific revolution, her childhood dream of continuing Rose's work becoming a reality beyond anything she could have imagined. But the star rose was just the beginning. As they delved deeper into Rose's notes and experiments, they uncovered a treasure trove of botanical innovations. Plants that could purify water, flowers with enhanced medicinal properties, and species uniquely adapted to thrive in challenging environments, all of these and more had sprung from the fertile mind of Rose Thorne. The Rose Thorne Botanical Research and Conservation Program, which Lily now headed, had grown into a world-renowned institution. The small town that had once been known only for its quaint charm was now a hub of scientific innovation and environmental conservation. Young students and established scientists alike came to study and work in the garden, their research expanding far beyond night-blooming plants to encompass a wide range of botanical and ecological studies. The Moonlight Grove, once a hidden sanctuary, now served as a living laboratory where the brightest minds of a new generation worked to unlock the secrets of the natural world. But for all its scientific importance, the garden never lost its magic. Lily had made sure of that. The monthly moonlight tours she had started years ago were still one of the garden's most popular attractions. Visitors from all over the world would wait months for a chance to wander the luminous paths under the full moon, marveling at the glowing flowers and listening to the stories of William, Rose, and Amelia. As Lily continued her walk through the garden, she paused at the old fountain in the center of the moonlight grove. The worn stone basin, once dry and filled with leaves, now burbled merrily, its waters tinted with a soft bioluminescent glow, another innovation inspired by Rose's work. She smiled, remembering the day they had restored the fountain. It had been a community effort, with everyone from school children to retirees pitching in to clear away years of overgrowth and repair the crumbling stonework. The project had unearthed yet another treasure, a time capsule buried beneath the fountain's base, filled with letters, photographs, and seeds from Rose's original plantings. That discovery had led to one of the most emotionally charged moments in the garden's recent history. Among the contents of the time capsule was a letter from William, written shortly before his death. In it, he spoke of his enduring love for Rose and his regret at letting her go. He wrote of watching the garden from afar, seeing it fall into neglect, but never finding the courage to return and face the memories it held. The letter had brought closure to a century-old love story and had inspired Lily to establish the William and Rose Thorne Scholarship, which provided funding for students pursuing studies in botany, ecology, and environmental conservation. It was her way of ensuring that the legacy of love and scientific curiosity that had shaped the garden would continue to inspire future generations. As twilight deepened into night, Lily made her way to the newly constructed visitors' center at the edge of the garden. The building, a marvel of sustainable architecture, blended seamlessly with its natural surroundings. Its walls were alive with vertical gardens, and its roof housed both a state-of-the-art greenhouse and an observatory for studying the effects of moonlight on plant growth. Inside, she found Elena, now in her 80s but still sharp as ever, leading a group of wide-eyed children through an exhibit on the garden's history. Lily paused to listen, smiling as her grandmother recounted the tale of a curious young girl who had stumbled upon a forgotten grove and changed the course of history. After the tour, Lily and Elena sat together on a bench overlooking the garden, just as they had done countless times over the years. The night air was filled with the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine and the soft chirping of crickets. "I never could have imagined all this," Elena said softly, gesturing at the thriving garden before them. "When I first showed you Amelia's old journals, I thought we might uncover a few interesting stories. Maybe restore a flower bed or two. But this..." She shook her head in wonder. Lily squeezed her grandmother's hand. "None of this would have been possible without you," she said. "You were the one who kept the garden's stories alive all those years. You gave me the key to unlock its secrets." As they sat in comfortable silence, Lily's mind turned to the future. The garden had grown and changed in ways she never could have predicted, and she knew that trend would only continue. Already, there were plans in the works for new expansions and projects. The international seed bank they had established, housing rare and endangered plant species from around the world, was set to double in size over the next year. Their research into bioluminescent plants was opening up new possibilities in sustainable lighting, and the garden's innovative water purification system, based on principles discovered in Rose's notes, was being adapted for use in regions struggling with clean water access. But beyond these tangible achievements, Lily knew that the garden's true legacy lay in the inspiration it provided. Every day she saw it in the eyes of the children who visited, that spark of wonder and curiosity that she had felt herself so many years ago. She saw it in the dedication of her research team, working tirelessly to unlock new secrets of the natural world. And she saw it in the community that had rallied around the garden, turning a forgotten patch of land into a thriving center of learning and discovery. As the moon rose higher in the sky, bathing the garden in its silvery light, Lily felt a familiar sense of awe wash over her. No matter how many scientific breakthroughs they achieved, no matter how much they learned about the intricate workings of nature, the garden never lost its capacity to amaze her. In that moment, surrounded by the fruits of a century of love, dedication, and scientific pursuit, Lily felt profoundly grateful. She was grateful for William and Rose, whose love story had started it all; for Amelia, whose careful stewardship had preserved the garden through difficult times; for Elena, whose stories had ignited a young girl's imagination; and for all the countless individuals who had contributed to the garden's rebirth and growth over the years. But most of all, she was grateful for the garden itself, this living, growing testament to the power of curiosity, perseverance, and the enduring beauty of the natural world. It had shaped her life in ways she never could have imagined, and she knew it would continue to shape the lives of others for generations to come. As she and Elena made their way back to the house, Lily's mind was already brimming with ideas for new projects and experiments. The garden's story was far from over. In fact, she realized with a smile, it was constantly beginning anew with each seed planted, each discovery made, and each wide-eyed visitor who stepped through its gates for the first time. The forgotten garden, once lost to time and neglect, had become a beacon of hope and innovation, a place where the past and future converged in a vibrant, ever-evolving present. And Lily, once a young girl with a curious mind and a love for growing things, had found her place at the heart of it all. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Lily's dreams were filled with images of glowing flowers and moonlit paths. But unlike the dreams of her childhood, these were not just flights of fancy. They were visions of a future still unfolding, a legacy still blooming, and a garden whose wonders were only just beginning to be revealed. The next morning dawned bright and clear, full of promise. Lily woke early, her mind already racing with plans for the day ahead. As she made her way down to the kitchen, she found Max, now her husband and partner in both life and work, already up and poring over a set of blueprints spread across the table. "Morning, love," he greeted her with a warm smile. "I think I've figured out how we can expand the seed bank without disturbing the night blooming section. Want to take a look?" Lily leaned over his shoulder, examining the intricate plans. Even after all these years, Max's dedication to the garden never failed to warm her heart. They had grown up together, their friendship blossoming alongside the garden they both loved. Their wedding, held beneath the old oak tree 5 years earlier, was still talked about as one of the most magical nights in the garden's recent history. As they discussed the plans over breakfast, Lily's phone buzzed with a message. It was from Dr. Amelia Chen, the brilliant young geneticist who had joined their team the previous year. "Big breakthrough in the lab," the message read. "You're going to want to see this." Excitement bubbling in her chest, Lily hurried to the research facility housed in the east wing of the visitors' center. She found Amelia bent over a microscope, her face alight with the kind of enthusiasm that only came with a major discovery. "We did it," Amelia said as soon as Lily entered the lab. "We've successfully mapped the gene sequence responsible for the star rose's bioluminescence. And not only that, we think we've found a way to introduce this trait into other plant species without compromising their existing characteristics." The implications of this discovery were staggering. If they could successfully introduce bioluminescence into food crops, it could revolutionize agriculture in regions with limited access to electricity. The potential applications in environmental monitoring and conservation were equally exciting. As Lily immersed herself in the data, marveling at the elegance of nature's design, she couldn't help but think of Rose. What would she have made of these discoveries? Would she have imagined, all those years ago, that her work would lead to such incredible breakthroughs? The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of activity. There were meetings with the research team to discuss next steps, calls with partner institutions excited to collaborate on the bioluminescence project, and a steady stream of visitors to guide through the garden. As evening approached, Lily found herself once again in the moonlight grove. She often came here when she needed to think, finding that the peaceful atmosphere helped to clear her mind and spark new ideas. She sat on the old bench, the very same one where they had first discovered the carved initials of William and Rose. From here, she had a perfect view of the star rose, its petals beginning to glow softly as the light faded. Looking at that miraculous flower, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. The garden had already achieved so much, touched so many lives. But she knew there was still so much more to do, so many more wonders to uncover. She thought of the children who visited the garden every day, their eyes wide with wonder as they learned about the marvels of the natural world. She thought of the students and researchers who came from around the globe to study and work here, each of them carrying a piece of the garden's legacy out into the world. And she thought of the future, of the discoveries yet to be made, the problems yet to be solved, the beauty yet to be revealed. The garden, she realized, was more than just a place of history and science. It was a promise to the future, a living testament to the power of human curiosity and the enduring mysteries of nature. As the first stars began to twinkle overhead, Lily stood, filled with a sense of excitement for the days to come. She had once thought that uncovering the garden's secrets would be the adventure of a lifetime. Now she understood that the real adventure lay in continuing to nurture its growth, to explore its potential, and to share its wonders with the world. With a smile, she turned towards home, her mind already brimming with ideas for new projects and experiments. The Forgotten Garden's story was far from over. In fact, she realized, it was only just beginning. As she walked the moonlit paths, Lily felt a profound sense of connection. To the past, to the present, and to the ever-unfolding future. In nurturing this garden, she and countless others had cultivated something truly miraculous, a place where dreams took root, where innovation flourished, and where the boundaries between science and magic seemed to blur. The Forgotten Garden, once lost to time, had become a beacon of hope and discovery, and Lily, the curious girl who had stumbled upon its secrets, had found her life's purpose in tending its wonders and sharing its gifts with the world. As she reached the edge of the garden, Lily paused for one last look back. The moonlight grove glowed softly in the distance, a luminous heart beating at the center of this remarkable place. With a contented sigh, she turned towards home, ready to embrace whatever new adventures tomorrow might bring. For in the Forgotten Garden, every day brought the promise of new growth, new discoveries, and new wonders waiting to be unveiled. And Lily, like the garden itself, was always ready to bloom anew. The Forgotten Garden, Seeds of Global Change. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Lily found herself once again walking the paths of the moonlight garden. It had become her morning ritual, a way to center herself before diving into the whirlwind of activity that each day brought. The garden was quiet at this hour, save for the gentle rustling of leaves and the occasional early bird call. Lily paused at the base of the old oak tree, its massive trunk now adorned with a plaque commemorating the 100th anniversary of William and Rose's first meeting. She smiled, thinking of how their love story had set in motion a chain of events that had changed not just her life, but the lives of countless others around the world. As she continued her walk, Lily's mind wandered to the challenges and triumphs of the past few years. The Forgotten Garden, once a hidden treasure in a small town, had become a beacon of hope and innovation on a global scale. Its influence had spread far beyond the realm of botany. touching fields as diverse as medicine, environmental conservation, and even space exploration. The breakthrough with the star rose's bioluminescent properties had been just the beginning. In the years that followed, Lily and her team had made discovery after discovery, each one building on the last, in a beautiful symphony of scientific progress. One of their most significant achievements had been the development of what they called resilient crops, plants engineered using principles derived from the star rose's unique genetic makeup. These crops could thrive in harsh conditions, resisting drought, pests, and even soil salinity. In regions struggling with food security due to climate change, these resilient crops had been nothing short of revolutionary. Lily remembered the day she had visited a small village in sub-Saharan Africa, where fields that had lain barren for years were now lush with green, hardy plants bearing abundant fruit. The joy and hope in the villagers' eyes had brought her to tears. It was in moments like these that she truly understood the far-reaching impact of their work. But it wasn't just in agriculture that the garden's influence was felt. The bioluminescent properties of the star rose had led to advancements in sustainable lighting technology. Cities around the world were now experimenting with bioluminescent trees lining their streets, providing gentle, natural light without the need for electricity. It was as if the magic of the Moonlight Grove was being replicated on a global scale. As Lily reached the research facility, she saw that the lights were already on. Through the window, she could see her daughter, Rose, named after the pioneering botanist whose work had started it all, bent over a microscope. At just 22, Rose was already making waves in the scientific community with her innovative approach to botanical genetics. Lily felt a surge of pride as she watched her daughter work. Rose had grown up in the garden, her curiosity nurtured by its wonders, and now she was contributing to its legacy in her own unique way. It was a beautiful continuation of the cycle that had begun so many years ago. Entering the lab, Lily was immediately struck by the excitement in the air. Rose looked up from her microscope, her eyes shining with the kind of enthusiasm that Lily recognized all too well, the thrill of a new discovery. "Mom, you're not going to believe this," Rose said, barely containing her excitement. "Remember how we've been trying to understand why some plants in the Moonlight Grove seem to communicate with each other more effectively than others?" Lily nodded. Her interest piqued. This had been a puzzle they'd been trying to solve for years, ever since they'd first observed the phenomenon. "Well, I think I've cracked it," Rose continued. "It's not just about chemical signals or root networks like we initially thought. There's an electromagnetic component, almost like a natural wireless network between the plants. And get this, it seems to be amplified by moonlight." As Rose explained her findings, Lily's mind raced with the implications. If plants could indeed communicate in this way, it could revolutionize our understanding of ecosystems. It might explain how forests recover from disasters, how invasive species spread, or even how plants warn each other about threats. But more than that, it opened up entirely new avenues for technological innovation. Could they develop communication systems based on this natural model? Could it lead to more efficient, nature-inspired networks? As they delved deeper into the data, Lily was struck by a sense of déjà vu. Here they were, a century after Rose Thorne's groundbreaking work, still uncovering new wonders in the garden she had helped create. It was a powerful reminder of the enduring nature of scientific discovery, how each generation built upon the work of those who came before. The day flew by in a flurry of excitement, with team meetings, conference calls with collaborating institutions, and long hours in the lab. By the time evening fell, Lily felt exhausted but exhilarated. She made her way back to the Moonlight Grove, drawn as always to its peaceful atmosphere. As she sat on the old bench, watching the star roses begin to glow in the twilight, Lily reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. From a curious child stumbling upon a forgotten garden to the head of a world-renowned research institution, her life had been a testament to the power of curiosity and perseverance. But as she gazed out over the luminous flowers, a new challenge began to take shape in her mind. For all their discoveries and innovations, there was still so much they didn't understand about the natural world. And with the planet facing unprecedented environmental challenges, their work was more important than ever. Lily thought about the resilient crops growing in once barren fields, the bioluminescent trees lighting city streets, and now this new discovery about plant communication. Each of these breakthroughs had started here, in this garden. What other secrets were waiting to be uncovered? What other solutions to global problems might be hiding in plain sight in the intricate dance of nature that surrounded them? As the moon rose, casting its silver light over the garden, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose. She thought of William and Rose, of Amelia, of all those who had tended this garden before her. They had each faced challenges in their time, had each pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Now it was her turn to take the next step. With a deep breath, Lily stood, her mind already formulating plans. The discovery of plant communication networks opened up a whole new field of study. They would need to expand their research team, perhaps create a new department dedicated to studying this phenomenon. And they would need to reach out to experts in other fields, ecologists, physicists, even computer scientists, to fully explore the implications of this discovery. But beyond that, Lily saw an opportunity to take their work to the next level. If plants could form these intricate communication networks, could they be used to monitor ecosystems on a large scale? Could they develop a global network of gardens, each one acting as a node in a vast living environmental monitoring system? The idea was ambitious, perhaps even audacious. But as Lily looked around at the thriving garden that had grown from a forgotten patch of land, she knew that audacity sometimes paid off. As she made her way back to the house, Lily's step had a new spring in it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, new opportunities to make a difference. But for now, she was content in the knowledge that the forgotten garden, far from being forgotten, had become a source of hope and inspiration for the entire world. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the air filled with the promise of new beginnings. Lily woke early, her mind already buzzing with ideas for their new project. As she made her way to the kitchen, she found Max already there, a steaming mug of coffee in his hand, and a knowing smile on his face. "I know that look," he said, handing her a mug of her own. "You're plotting something big, aren't you?" Lily couldn't help but laugh. After all these years, Max could read her like a book. As they sat at the kitchen table, Lily outlined her vision for a global network of gardens, each one modeled after the Moonlight Garden, each one acting as a node in a vast environmental monitoring system. Max listened intently, his eyes growing wider with each detail. When she finished, he let out a low whistle. That's incredible, Lily, and a little terrifying. Do you think we can pull it off?" Lily reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "I think we have to try," she said softly. "The world is changing, Max. Climate change, habitat loss, pollution. We're facing challenges on a scale we've never seen before. But if we can harness the power of nature itself, if we can learn to listen to what the plants are telling us, maybe we have a chance to make a real difference." As they continued to discuss the idea, refining and expanding it, Lily felt a familiar excitement building in her chest. It was the same feeling she'd had as a child, stepping into the moonlight grove for the first time. The feeling of standing on the brink of something magical, something that could change everything. Over the next few weeks, the Moonlight Garden buzzed with activity. Lily and her team worked tirelessly, refining their understanding of the plant communication network and developing plans for their global initiative. They reached out to botanical gardens and research institutions around the world, sharing their vision and inviting collaboration. The response was overwhelming. From the Amazon rainforest to the savannas of Africa, from the mountains of Tibet to the Australian outback, scientists and conservationists were eager to be part of this groundbreaking project. As the plans took shape, Lily found herself traveling more than she had in years. She visited potential sites for the new gardens, met with local experts, and gave talks at universities and conferences. Everywhere she went, she was struck by the enthusiasm and hope that their project inspired. In a remote corner of the Amazon, she stood with a group of indigenous botanists, listening as they shared their traditional knowledge of the forest's complex ecosystems. Their insights, passed down through generations, provided invaluable context for understanding the plant communication networks they were studying. In the heart of Tokyo, she toured a vertical garden that stretched up the side of a skyscraper, marveling at how urban planners were integrating nature into the very fabric of the city. She could easily imagine how such a garden could serve as a node in their global network, providing real-time data on urban ecosystems. And in a small village in India, she watched as local farmers eagerly adopted the resilient crop varieties developed from the star rose's genetics. Their excitement was palpable as they looked forward to more stable harvests and improved food security. With each visit, each conversation, Lily's vision grew clearer and more expansive. This wasn't just about scientific discovery anymore. It was about fostering a global community, united in their commitment to understanding and protecting the natural world. As the project gained momentum, it began to attract attention from beyond the scientific community. Environmental activists, policymakers, and even world leaders took notice. The forgotten garden and the principles it represented became a symbol of hope in the face of global environmental challenges. One crisp autumn morning, Lily found herself standing before the United Nations General Assembly, preparing to address world leaders on the importance of their work. As she looked out over the sea of faces, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but she also felt a surge of determination. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice clear and strong. "A century ago, in a small garden in a quiet town, two young people fell in love. Their story could have ended there, a simple tale of romance. But instead, it became the seed of something much greater. That garden, once forgotten, has become a beacon of hope and innovation. It has shown us that the solutions to our greatest challenges may be found in the whispers of leaves, in the resilience of a single seed, in the intricate dance of nature that surrounds us every day. Today, I stand before you to propose a bold initiative, a global network of gardens, each one a living laboratory, each one a node in a vast interconnected web of environmental monitoring and conservation. Through this network, we can listen to the voice of nature on a scale never before possible. We can track changes in real time, predict environmental shifts before they become crises, and develop solutions that work in harmony with the natural world. But this project is about more than just science. It's about fostering a global community, united in our commitment to understanding and protecting our planet. It's about recognizing that we are all part of this vast, beautiful ecosystem, and that our fates are inextricably linked. The challenges we face are great. Climate change, habitat loss, pollution, these are problems that know no borders. But I believe that by working together, by listening to the wisdom of nature and to each other, we can forge a path forward. 100 years ago, a forgotten garden began to bloom anew. Today, I invite all of you to join us in nurturing a garden that spans the entire globe. Together, we can cultivate a future where humanity and nature thrive in harmony. As Lily concluded her speech, the assembly hall erupted in applause. In that moment, she felt the full weight of the journey that had brought her to this point. From a curious child exploring a hidden grove to a woman standing before the leaders of the world, championing a vision of global environmental stewardship. In the days and weeks that followed, Lily's proposal sparked a flurry of activity on the international stage. Countries pledged support, corporations offered funding, and individuals around the world reached out to ask how they could get involved. As Lily returned home to the Moonlight Garden, she felt a profound sense of both accomplishment and anticipation. They had taken the first step on an incredible journey, one that would require dedication, innovation, and collaboration on a global scale. Standing once again in the moonlight grove, under the spreading branches of the old oak tree, Lily closed her eyes and listened. She could almost imagine she heard the whispers of the plants, their quiet conversations carried on the evening breeze. Soon, she thought, they would be able to understand these whispers, to translate the ancient wisdom of the natural world into actionable knowledge. As the star roses began to glow in the gathering dusk, Lily opened her eyes and smiled. The forgotten garden had come a long way from its humble beginnings. What had started as a hidden grove, a secret romance, had blossomed into a movement that spanned the globe. And yet, for all that had changed, the heart of the garden remained the same. It was still a place of wonder, of discovery, of connections forged and nurtured. It was still a testament to the power of curiosity, perseverance, and love. As night fell and the moon rose over the garden, Lily made her way back to the house, her mind already turning to the work that lay ahead. There would be challenges, she knew, setbacks and obstacles to overcome. But as she looked back at the luminous beauty of the moonlight grove, she felt a surge of hope and determination. The forgotten garden had changed her life, had changed the world, and she knew, with a certainty that ran bone deep, that its story was far from over. In fact, the most exciting chapter was just beginning. As she stepped into the warm light of home, where Max and Rose waited with eager smiles and 1,000 questions, Lily felt her heart swell with love and gratitude. For her family, for the garden, for the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. And as she began to share the events of the day, to plan and dream with the people she loved most in the world, Lily knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Just as they always had. Ever since that fateful day when a curious girl stumbled upon a forgotten garden and set in motion a story that would touch lives around the world. The forgotten garden, once lost to time and neglect, had become a seed of hope for the entire planet. And Lily, along with countless others inspired by its story, would nurture that seed, watching with wonder as it grew into a future more beautiful and harmonious than they had ever dared to imagine. As the night deepened and the family continued their excited discussions, the garden outside seemed to hum with life and possibility. In the moonlight grove, the star roses glowed brightly, their luminescence a beacon in the darkness. And in that glow, in the whisper of leaves and the subtle electromagnetic pulses passing between plants, a new chapter in Earth's story was already beginning to unfold. The forgotten garden, it seemed, would be forgotten no more. Instead, it would be remembered as the place where humanity began to rewrite its relationship with the natural world. One blossom, one discovery, one connection at a time. And so, as Lily finally retired to bed that night, her mind still buzzing with plans and possibilities, she fell asleep with a smile on her face and hope in her heart. For she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to make a difference. In the garden, under the watchful gaze of the moon and stars, the plants continued their age-old dance of growth and communication, and somewhere, in the subtle interplay of moonlight and chlorophyll, in the complex networks of roots and mycelia, in the gentle sway of leaves in the night breeze, the seeds of a global transformation were already beginning to sprout. The forgotten garden had found its voice, and the whole world was starting to listen.